On this cold evening in Stockholm, the lake waters mirror the faint lights of a city that has witnessed Agnetha Fältskog's greatest triumphs and darkest tragedies. Finally prepared to speak frankly about her history, 74-year-old Agnetha sits comfortably in a dark, silent room. A buried story is revealed by her cautious yet courageous remarks, and by her now softer voice, which yet carries the emotional clarity that once brought ABBA's songs to life. After Agnetha's 1980 divorce from Björn Ulvaeus, fans were curious about their relationship for decades. She is now prepared to articulate, using her own words, the reasoning behind her challenging decision. Imagine for a second that the 1970s were the pinnacle of Swedish pop sensation ABBA's meteoric rise to fame. It was impossible to silence ABBA's sound, thanks to Bjorn and Benny's iconic songs and Agnetha and Annie Fried's distinctive harmonies. The Swedish couple Agnetha and Bjorn appeared to be perfect to the viewers. But fame hides flaws, and beneath the glitz and glamour, their relationship was falling apart. While their song gave delight to millions, Agnetha now explains that her marriage was riddled with secret suffering. It appeared flawless from the outside. On stage, their connection was amazing, and they smiled for the cameras as they performed hit after hit together. Agnetha now confesses that her grin was actually a front for her sadness. She explains, her voice quivering, that throughout that time she felt as though she was losing her identity. With all his attention devoted to his job and the music, Bjorn barely gave us a second glance. The emergence of ABBA required unwavering commitment, but the pressure on Agnetha extended well beyond the stage. She felt overwhelmed by the demands of being a mother, a wife, and a pop star, and she longed for the support that her marriage couldn't provide. According to her recollection, Bjorn was drastically transformed by fame. She had fallen for a man who was once caring, encouraging, and dreaming along with her. However, Bjorn's obsession with ABBA's success became obsessive as the band reached unprecedented levels of fame. In addition to managing production, he devoted innumerable hours to refining songs and organizing tours. In contrast, the intensity was too much for Agnetha. The demands of being a mother and constantly on the go were already getting to her. He distanced himself. It was as if he was vanishing into this other world, completely ignoring me, she says. The worst sensation in the world for Agnetha was to feel like the man she loved didn't notice her. She claims that despite her heartache, they pretended to be happy for the cameras and that their relationship was okay. Their personal lives were growing increasingly apart, even though they performed together on stage. She writes, "I wanted a partner, not just a bandmate," her words laden with the unspoken anguish of long ago. Agnetha endured unspeakable hardships, while Bjorn appeared to be already betrothed to the music. Being away from her children for extended times, frequently on exhausting tours across continents, was a source of guilt for her as a mother. She felt their absence with each passing day, and even when she got home, she wasn't always at peace. A peaceful existence, free from the pressures of parenthood and music, was what her heart desired. The ambition and drive of Bjorn, though, were limitless. ABBA meant the world to him. During these years, Agnetha says, she felt the creeping presence of loneliness. She felt alone amid the sea of admiring fans. With his head in his own fantasies, Bjorn didn't appear to be much help. "It's difficult to put into words," she murmurs gently, her eyes averted. "Despite being married, I often felt lonely." The walls of her once sanctuary home now served as a constant reminder of her loneliness, which grinds you down. She started to lose her love for Bjorn due to this silent pain. She says that violent altercations were unusual for them to convey their tension. However, it was more like a simmering pot, quietly becoming bigger with every passing day of dissatisfaction. The minor things were Bjorn's condescending comments, his obsession with work, and his desire to oversee every aspect, even beyond the realm of music. Agnetha felt stifled, as if she were losing her identity in both the music and the world around her. During one of their few evenings off from the band and the pressures of the industry, she remembers it clearly. She hoped he'd get her desire for harmony and equilibrium once she spilled her guts to him. However, Bjorn, who was always pragmatic, dismissed her concerns and emphasized the need of being strong for ABBA's sake. Reliving the memories brings tears to her eyes as she describes how it hit her like a smack in the face. "It was as though nobody cared about how I felt." Agnetha finally snapped after years of denying herself what she needed. "He was too preoccupied with his own problems to notice my suffering." It wasn't any one traumatic event so much as the gradual erosion of her joy and sense of self. "I recall waking up one morning and feeling." Without emotion, she reveals, her voice barely audible. This woman had sacrificed so much for a relationship that appeared to have no lasting impact when she stared at herself in the mirror. "Even though it was unpleasant, that moment let me see things more clearly." She had to stop becoming a caricature of herself. It was excruciatingly painful to decide to go. She was well aware that this would doom the idealized portrayal of ABBA that the public had of the band as a cohesive entity. It was no longer an option for Agnetha to remain in a marriage that depleted her, though. She admits it wasn't easy, her voice burdened by the weight of her background. However, I came to the realization that staying would lead to my total disintegration. Thus, the couple's divorce was publicized in 1980, making a lasting impact on ABBA's dynamic and the world at large. Leaving Bjorn was the beginning, not the conclusion, of her struggles. With ABBA's legacy and the ideal of the perfect Swedish couple behind her, Agnetha entered a world free of acting for the cameras. But freedom was not without cost. With the band dispersing and the lights going down on ABBA, Agnetha was left in a disturbing hush. A stillness that revealed all that she had concealed. She had reached new heights in her elevation to fame. The drop had become terrifying, with each step bringing an unanticipated sense of isolation. Though she was the center of attention, her soul was empty and in need of a genuine connection. Life was everything but blissful in the years following ABBA's breakup. The press, looking for an opportunity to exploit her weaknesses, relentlessly pursued her. She made an effort to build every relationship. The world appeared to forget that she was a human being who required space to recover. As a result, every new song she released and every outing she took part in was scrutinized. She sought refuge in the Swedish countryside, where she could hear the wind in the trees and feel the vast sky beneath her feet, providing a sense of peace that no amount of fame or publicity could match. Far from the glitter and mayhem she had formerly known, her days grew more peaceful as she centered herself in the natural rhythms of her surroundings. Yet, achieving tranquility was no picnic. As she retreated, the weight of her prior memories pressed down on her, bringing up memories of both happy and sad times, with Bjorn's face permanently associated with both. Just as I had to figure out my identity apart from ABBA, she had to figure out hers apart from Bjorn. Her heart, which had previously raced with the excitement of fame, was now learning to beat in order to secure her own existence. Their once shared dream clung to her like a ghost, and she found it difficult to let go. On certain days, she wondered if it had been the correct thing to do to walk away. In her heart, though, she understood that the life that had almost engulfed her was something she could never return to. Bit by bit, Agnetha restored herself. Her sense of identity returned to her like a long-lost companion as she became stronger with each passing year. When she performed alone, she gave her all to the music, crafting records that told her tale and reflected her experiences. Her hauntingly beautiful voice gained new depths of tenderness and strength. Through her music, fans were able to hear her anguish, victory, and journey, which struck a chord and attracted new listeners who could relate to her experiences. After years of sacrificing for others, her music became a reflection of her recovery and a testimony to her coming into her own. Agnetha has now accepted the decisions that before served as an anchor for her, and she is 74 years old today. It was an act of self-respect, not a failure or loss, that she realized she had to do when she left Bjorn. Reclaiming my happiness was more important than merely leaving him, she adds with a calm and confident voice. In hindsight, she realizes that leaving her husband was more than just a leap out of a marriage, it was a leap into a life of her own, one in which her joy, her voice, and her serenity were paramount. Agnetha has finally achieved the serenity she craved as she entered her twilight years. Although the path hasn't been without its challenges, she is certain that it has deepened her connection to herself. There is no animosity in her heart. Only wisdom can bring a deep comprehension of how life's toughest trials frequently result in its most precious blessings. What matters most to Agnetha now is not the fame, the records, or the tours. What matters most is the courage it required to leave it all behind and stand as an independent, fearless woman. Now that she is ready to tell her experience, Agnetha's remarks have a message for everyone who has ever felt invisible or stuck in a relationship. Her voice remains resolute as she warns against sacrificing one's identity for the sake of another's ambition. It took me a long time to figure it out, but being true to yourself isn't always the most courageous thing to do.